everybody. Thank you so much for joining us here today, and hello to the folks on Salesforce Plus as well. Really honored that you guys decided to spend the tail end of your TDX here with us. I know it's been a really busy couple of days, but really excited to talk to you more about scaling automation with AI-driven workflows. And before I get into the good stuff, always have to do the forward-looking statement. I'm sure you've seen this a lot over the past 2 days, but always make any sort of purchasing decisions based on how awesome our product currently is, not how awesome our product will be. And one more quick action item before we get into the content. Coffee on us. As a product manager, I love to see feedback. So if you could do 4 session surveys, you will get a gift card. And with that, let's get into it. My name is Vidya. I lead product for Agentforce for Flow. Joining me here today are Zaewon Chen, who is a senior manager for AI research, who has been working with the team for the past 2 years, and Maeve Twintivate, who is a director of product for the AI App Dev program. And I'll be talking a little bit about what we'll be going over in today's session. So first, I'll be covering what Agentforce for Flow actually is. So what problem it solves, sort of some demos, going through some use cases that are especially useful. And then Zaewon's going to be going behind the scenes and talking a little bit about the model and how it works, how we get from a natural language prompt to a fully built out draft flow specifically. It's really magical when you see the demos, and he'll be talking more about the step-by-step behind that. And finally, Maeve is going to be going into what's next in terms of Agentforce for Flow and the bigger picture of app development. So we have a lot in store for you guys today. And with that, I'll talk a little bit first about what Agentforce for Flow actually is. So it's an umbrella term for a couple of things that we do. The bread and butter of Agentforce for Flow is the ability, like I mentioned, to draft a flow using AI. So going from a natural language prompt to a built-out flow, it really is amazing. I'm going to show you guys a demo of this in a second, but you'll see how quick and how accurate it actually can be. It's pretty cool. Next up, generating a new formula. So I won't be demoing this today in the interest of time, but if you guys have checked out Release Readiness Live, I have a pretty thorough demo of that up online, so you can check that out if you want to. And lastly, I'll also be demoing summarizing new and existing flows. And this is my personal favorite feature that we've released. This is a really exciting one, so excited to demo that for you as well. One quick thing before I go into demos, I will say that everything you see here in my portion of the deck today is generally available, and you can actually access it right now. So as of 2 weeks ago, we're now GA, which means that if you have an Einstein 1 plan, that is Einstein 1 for service, for sales, or for platform, this is auto-enabled in your orgs right now. So if you have the opportunity to try it, would love for you to do that. If you don't have those plans, talk to your AE definitely, and give it a try and let us know what you think. Okay, so I'm going to go into my first demo now, and this is flow generation. So the first thing I do is I click on New Flow. I select Let Einstein Help You Build. And what you'll see here are a couple of sample prompts that we have ready for you. And these are really good examples of how to write a good prompt. You can play around with those, build a flow if you like, but I've put in my own prompt here. And it's a little quick, so if you can't read it, it's get all the opportunities that were created in the last 14 days, loop over them, and send an email message to each account with a subject of hello. So fairly simple, and we're seeing it generate right now. And you can see here I have this auto-launched flow with a loop in it. Pretty cool. You can see that that was all thanks to natural language. And here I'm just demonstrating opening and closing my handy-dandy Einstein doc composer. I gave some feedback on the flow with a thumbs up, and now I'm just saving that flow. I'm calling it flow 1. And the feedback mechanism, it's really tiny, but actually really important to product managers like me. Like I mentioned, feedback is so important to us. So you actually can give feedback on both your flow generation and flow summarization to kind of show us how well it actually worked. And that gives us good input that tells us how to improve the product. So I just generated that flow. I called it flow 1. That was awesome. But now I'm putting myself in the shoes of an admin who's inherited the org that I was just building in. And I see this flow called flow 1. And I think to myself, that's not a very good name for a flow. So I click on it, and I'm wondering what it does. And I see that, okay, it's an auto-launched flow. It has a loop in it. But I don't want to have to click into every single element to really get a granular look at what the flow does. But luckily here, I have my handy Summarize Flow button, so I just click on that. And by the way, this is not sped up. This is actually the amount of time it takes to spit out this really nice summary. So you can see the type of flow, you can see a description, you can see the fields, the objects. If there are subflows in this flow, then you can see those as well. And all of this is delivered to you. And now I'm making it shorter. You can also make it longer. and adding that to my flow description. And what adding it to my flow description does is really solves that problem of poor documentation. So that was just my really quick overview of flow summarization. Hopefully you can see how useful this can be. So imagine that, once again, if I'm an admin who inherits an org from someone else, maybe they're poorly documented flows, maybe there's just thousands of flows in my org, which is actually not so atypical for admins. This can really, really help out with that. But you guys thought I was done. I actually have one more bonus demo for you. And this is the summarization of what I would call like a monster flow. You have to scroll through it to show the whole thing on the screen. And once again, I'm going to click Summarize Flow. And again, a reminder that this is not sped up. This is the actual time it takes. And I get a really nice description for this giant flow. So once again, another use case of flow summarization. If you have a really complex, really large flow, you can get a really nice summary of it. So hopefully you guys thought that was cool. I definitely am really excited about these products in particular. Summarization has been really popular. It's been 2 weeks, as I mentioned, since we released it. It's already gotten really awesome reception. And here's some more detail about what we've heard so far on generation in particular. So generation really jumpstarts the flow building process. Instead of replacing it entirely, I will say that having a human in the loop is always advisable to go through and check the flows that are built. And it definitely is an iterative process as well, but we've been hearing good things from our admins so far. So again, really hope that you guys go ahead and try it out and let us know what you think. And before I hand it off to Zaewon, I just wanted to go through some prompt writing best tips. As I alluded to in the flow generation demo, a better prompt always yields a better flow. So a couple of things, just to be a little bit more prescriptive, starting each prompt with the phrase create a flow, being very specific about objects, fields, entry conditions, all of that good stuff is really, really helpful. So yeah, this is a good slide to take a picture of, definitely. And I think the next slide is a good one to take a picture of as well. And that is a couple of prompt examples. This is a good way to kind of test yourself on those best practices. So what makes a bad prompt versus a good prompt? Create a new flow that looks up all open opportunities is a little bit broad. It doesn't specify what the action is. And open isn't technically a status that can be labeled. So create a flow that looks up all opportunities that have not closed and creates a task for the opportunity owner to update the opportunity is a lot more specific and will yield a better result. And very last thing before I hand it over to Zaewon and Maeve, our roadmap. Always love to show a roadmap. So ahead of releasing our GA back in February, 2 weeks ago, we actually also released the ability to edit a prompt. Didn't have time to demo that here today, but again, on Release Readiness Live, I have a pretty thorough demo of that as well, so if you want to check that out, you definitely can. My favorite AI summarization just came out, so you guys just saw that. What we have coming up, we have an agent that's going to be replacing our Einstein conversational interface. That is going to make the experience a lot better, a lot more streamlined, so very, very excited for that. We also have the ability to conversationally edit and evolve a flow. So doing things like saying, add element X, remove element Y, modify element Z. Those kinds of things conversationally are something that admins have really requested from us. So that is going to be a game changer for this feature as well. And you can see across the board, I have model enhancements. Because every single release, we really prioritize accuracy, reducing latency, and helping with performance. And that is a really good segue to handing it over to Zaewon, because his team is really dedicated to sort of the science of improving accuracy. So with that, I will go ahead and hand it to you, Zaewon.
Thanks, Vidya. Okay, so you have just seen some great demo from Vidya. Now I'm going to introduce what's the magic behind it, so how we do the model development and also how we develop the techniques. So by the way, I'm Zuan Chen. I'm a senior manager from the AI research team. So I want to have a quick introduction of our awesome AI research team. So we have been innovative for the past decade to bring the AI to the CRM products. So we knew all the way back in 2014 that the AI will fundamentally change the Salesforce products. So the company decided to establish this awesome AI research team. So this group of world-class researchers and working very closely with our engineers, we have brought up the AI into every layer of the platform in the past decades. So for instance, in the early years, we have been working on something like Einstein bot, prediction builder, conversational insights. Probably you have used some of the products, Einstein search, recommendation builder, etc. And in the past few years, with the popularity of Gen AI, we have also released a lot of models. So for instance, we have the code which is the state-of-the-art code generation problem in models in 2022. And also we have some AI for science paper like protein generation, that's more like for research. And also we published something like SFR embedding. So that is a model used for the retrieval system, and that is already widely used in a lot of retrieval augmented generation systems, which is powering your agents. And also we developed something called XLAM, that is a large action model, so that can do a lot of API calling. It is also powering our agent force right now. And also recently we published the agent force for a developer and also for Flow. That is two awesome products we are working on. And last year we also incubated the Atlas reasoning engine that was powering the agent force 2.0. And in addition to these awesome products, our team also working on a lot of research. So first we have published more than 350 papers and more than 400 patents. So that is a huge number to the size of the team. Okay, now let's take a deeper look at the model we have built specifically for the agent force for Flow. So this is the state-of-the-art LM leveraging our internal data, specifically tailored for this Flow and related problems. So with this model, we can boost the accuracy a lot because we have the full control of this model, and we can change the model weights however we want and change its behavior. So what we do is that we continuously improve the model based on the user's feedback. So for instance, if some use cases we want to cover, or if we think the model doesn't perform well on some specific use cases, we will continuously do a lot of data curation and augmentation and add them to our training site. So then we will fine-tune our model based on this newly created data and reduce the deployment. So after this entire cycle, the issues we observed will be gone. So then second one is that we can always ensure the security and trust because all of these models are deployed inside Salesforce in a very secure environment. So your data will never leave Salesforce. And last but not least is about we can minimize the latency and the resource usage. Because our focus here is that we are trying to build smaller models, but they are very specific and they achieve very high performance on this very specific flow, like flow generation, flow summarization task. It's much better than the general purpose models, which is much larger and more costly. So that being said, we can achieve very high accuracy with much lower latency and lower cost altogether. Okay, so to achieve all of this, the training data is the key. In the past 2 years, we have been working with a group of exceptional Flow admins to build the data for us. So for instance, we have Andrew, Tracy, Dario. They are certified Salesforce admins who have many years of building Flow and do these admin tasks. So with the help of this group of excellent Flow experts, we can ensure that our data has very high quality. And then they are also created from very diverse business scenarios to cover everything you need. And also we ensure the data is infused with the best practice. So let's take a deeper look at the data creation process. So to manage this very complex data creation cleaning process, we actually have set up an org specifically for this in Salesforce. So we can look at this process step by step. So usually start with the prompt writing. So we try to make sure the prompt can cover the majority of the use cases, and we want to make them diverse and to be as similar as to your real use cases as possible. And then by looking at the prompts, our Flow expert will create the corresponding flow in the training org. So first, in this example, we always make sure we have a fault path here to enforce the best practice. So in the early days, all of the flows are manually created by our Flow experts. But recently, we're also leveraging the LLMs to facilitate this process. But of course, eventually, all of the data are manually checked very carefully by all of the experts to ensure its quality. Okay, so after that, we can scrape the data from this org. So originally, the data format is very complex. It's in XML. It is hard for the model to understand, and regardless about generating this very complex representation. So we do a lot of data processing, and so basically we decompose this very complex metadata into some high-level representation, like the topology to represent the logic, and also some details of the elements. We can show some examples later. So, but anyway, we do a lot of processing to make the data easily to be understood by the model and easy for training. And the last step is that our expert will do another round of review of all of the data and rejecting the low quality ones. And on top of that, we also add a lot of details. So for instance, we have the chain of thought. So that is a human written step-by-step way, like if you are human, how you would construct a flow from scratch. So with this human instructions, we can also teach the model to thinking about the process as a human, and it can improve the model's reasoning capability a lot. And also we add information about object and field API. So that means that our model can understand which custom object and fields you would use, and we can support that as well. And also we have added the level of complexity just to give the model a sense of how complex the task is ahead of time before generating the details. So after we have done all of this work, the data will be ready for training. Okay, so we just talk about the data and the training. Now I'm going to show you how it works in the runtime. So basically after you type in some prompt in the system, what will happen behind the scene. So for instance, the user says, well, I want to create a flow to send an email after a opportunity is closed won, then follow up with the customer with something. So when our model look at this prompt, it will generate a flow structure at a very high level first. So it is a graph representation of a flow. It consists of your elements and the connectors. So each element could be something like an action call, like send an email. It could be a record update, delete, create records, etc. And it could also involve some logic, like decision loop elements. So that is each node. And then we can also generate the connectivity between all of these elements. So after this, the model will have a very high-level understanding of the flow structure, and we ensure that that is matching your intent. And after that, the model will start generating the details of each of the elements in parallel. So we do that parallel call because it is very efficient. Let's suppose you have probably tens or dozens elements in your flow. All of the details will be generated simultaneously, so it will be really fast to finish the process. So after all of this, we will translate this representation back to the flow metadata in XML or JSON. Then we can simply deploy this data into your system, and then you can see it on your canvas. So then similarly to what Vidya has shown, you can do whatever you want. You can edit it, improve it, or save it, or even activate it if you think it is ready to go. Okay, so this is just a very brief introduction of all the techniques. There are a lot of things I don't share here because of the time. Yeah, so if you're interested, please try our product, and we are looking forward to your feedback. Yeah. Now I'm going to hand over to Maeve to talk about how we can use this product and for the app development.
Thanks, Zaewon. All right, so Zaewon and Vidya showed a lot about how flow generation is enhancing, but we know that flows don't just exist in a vacuum. They exist in the concept of your apps. So what's next? How are we integrating this technology into our application development lifecycle? We know that an app is not an app without automation. That's pretty clear. But what if you could not only generate flows via AI, but have AI integrate flows seamlessly into your application development process as you're building it, complete with other metadata types to make things fully functional. All right, so we're coming up with this new concept where you can build applications on Salesforce with AI, and we're really expanding on not just flow generation capabilities, but all other types of metadata generation. And the way that we're thinking about it is a couple of different concepts. And the first is agentic planning. So when you're building out a product or a project on your own manually, you're probably coming up with your team and thinking about different requirements or ideas, and you work through that ideation process, you work through and you design that application, you build, test, and ultimately deploy it. And we think planning with agents should happen the exact same way. Agents are really good at reasoning through those things, and so we're putting that to the test. Secondly, it needs to be multimodal and conversational. Agents are really good through reasoning through human text. And so you want to be able to work with your agent to refine different requirements and approaches and make sure that your application is ultimately curated to exactly what you need. Similarly to how you saw NVIDIA's example of working through the different flow requirements and refining different descriptions and making sure it works for your use case. Most importantly, we want to actually construct this metadata with agents. Getting you started on constructing all of the metadata needed for your application, not just flows, but your data model, possibly your flexi pages and other types of metadata is really critical in reducing that time to value in your application creation process. What's even better is if all of those systems know about each other, you can create it in harmony and it becomes a lot more useful. And last but certainly not least is end-to-end lifecycle management. Being able to actually use the lifecycle management tool of your choosing is really critical, but more importantly, we know you need to track all the changes that are being made within your org in the context of the project that you're working in. And so being able to understand what metadata has changed, where it's changed, if it was generated by AI or not, is really critical in your building process. All right, so what might this look like? Here's a quick sneak peek of some concepts that the team is working on building. All right, so like any other AI application, you're gonna start with a user utterance. And in this example, we're going to try to create a food delivery service application. The goal would be to track drivers and restaurants and customer orders. All right, so that brings us into our building process. Right now, behind the scenes, our application development agent is reasoning through intent. It's trying to understand what you're trying to accomplish, and it's going through different solutions that are available on the Salesforce platform to try to pick and choose what's going to be needed to build your application. At the same time, it's going to be asking you follow-up questions, something like, do you want to build a new app, or is this going to be an enhancement to an existing app? It's going to make sure it has all the information needed before it actually creates a requirements document for you. So this requirements document is probably really similar to one that you would build with your team or that maybe your product managers have made. It's going to include a description, different user personas, as well as functional requirements. And you're going to want to go through this with a fine-tooth comb. The agent's going to do a great job getting it kick-started for you, but you need to make sure all those details are correct because what is generated in this step is really critical and is going to actually ultimately create that metadata in the project plan itself. So once you're satisfied with all of that, you can actually go ahead and create your plan, which is a set of work items, and then actually execute that. Meaning you're asking the agent, hey, I'm good with what I have. Can you go ahead and execute this and generate all the metadata needed to actually create this city cater delivery app? So behind the scenes, our agent is reaching out to a lot of different technologies like the flow generation one we saw earlier and is saying, okay, here are our requirements. Let's generate all this metadata behind the scenes. Now you can see that it's able to create a data model for us, a custom data model. It's created an agent that it thinks we need with a few different topics and actions, as well as automation. You can also see all of the metadata associated with the new application on the left-hand side in what's known as our metadata explorer. So you can see that we have a little diamond emoji to mark if it was generated by AI or not. But you can also pull in other metadata into your application that you might have worked on manually on this side. The really cool thing about this is as you're going through, you can click on these different pieces of metadata and it'll open it up into their respective builders so that you can actually fine tune it. Because AI creation is really, really good, but it's not 100% correct. You're gonna need to go through and make sure that you're refining things after initial creation. So let's go ahead and see what it created for us. This is just an example of a flow that it created. It thinks that we need to be able to troubleshoot delayed orders. So it has us get those orders, it's gonna loop through them and be able to notify the customer, which is pretty great. You might wanna make some changes to this, but what a really helpful start. So you're actually able to preview this with sample data in your sandbox that was also generated by our agent. So you can kind of see how your users might interact with it as well. So we're really excited about this technology, and we are actually gonna be rolling out a pilot of it this summer. And so if you're interested in joining the pilot, we would love it if you would fill out this form to enroll. It's just a simple Google form, and if you're interested and we think that will be a good fit, we will be reaching out to you. And we'd also encourage you to provide feedback on Agentforce for Flow. As Vidya mentioned earlier, as product managers, we really, really value your feedback. And so anything and everything you can give us is very helpful. So thank you very much.